Grapplers of a different kind are set to meet this weekend at flyweight as we have Tracy Cortez representing Fight Ready MMA taking on Brazil's undefeated Melissa Gatto. And when I look at this fight, and I have to be completely honest with everybody out there, I've had a weird picking history with Melissa Gatto. I mean, she makes her UFC debut against former Invicta fighter Victoria Leonardo, and in that fight, I couldn't take myself to pick Gatto in that one. I mean, she had a 3-year layoff, she had a 1-year suspension by USADA because she tested positive for furosemide, and in that one, Gatto outstrikes Leonardo 70-43, and then in her fight against Sijara Eubanks, she outstrikes her 64-32. Now, I did pick Gatto to beat Eubanks, but I picked Leonardo to beat Gatto, and the big sticking point was Melissa Gatto takedown defense is poor, but it's Mackenzie Dern takedown defense because her jiu-jitsu...
Wait, it's a trap!
It's lights out, and when you look at her striking... On the Brazilian scene, it was bad. Like, it was just straight up bad. Single shots, jab, no right hand, no kicks whatsoever. But over that 3-year layoff, it's like she completely transformed her striking. She's become a much more fluid striker. Nice kicks, better hands. Not great, but better. The trouble is, when she goes to throw her punches, she leads with her head, and then she throws her arms out there. She's very, very hittable. But coming up this weekend... Melissa Gatto doesn't really have to worry about that because for Tracy Cortez, other than the Google search I did in anticipation for this one, because I went, okay, what have we seen out of Tracy Cortez in the UFC? She's undefeated. She was great in Invicta. She won a Contender Series. She has a crazy life story.
Little hittable.
She's involved with Brian Ortega. Doing my Google searches, getting pictures, getting info, and then all of a sudden I see a picture of Brian Ortega, the inside is lit. Now people can see I have no tattoo here. But Brian Ortega has Tracy with a heart tattooed on the inside of his lip. He also has a headline that goes to the fact that she's this gorgeous boxer. When the hell was Tracy Cortez a gorgeous boxer? Who wrote this?
It's kind of
like AI?
It's like when you do, like when we used to break down Kay Hansen fights. Like, she was a boxer. She was like 2-6 in boxing. Like, you can be a boxer too, Craig. We can throw that in a headline. Like, we can get you to do like some, you can do like some boxing lessons. We can get you that point. This is a weird fight, and I hope you agree with me on this. If these two fought in, like, submission underground for Chael Sonnen, the result would be the same of what their MMA fight is. Because you're right, Gatto, not a great striker at all. No, I shouldn't say that.
She's gotten better.
She's a basic striker, and that doesn't mean it's poor, that doesn't mean it's good. It's just what she is. She throws a very steady 1-2. You're right, does get a little over-aggressive with her own flurries, but she doesn't have terrible punching power, and I think that's why she does get a little over-aggressive, because if I leave myself wide open, what are you going to do? You're either going to hit me with a big counter shot, or you're going to take her down. And you do not want to take Melissa Gatto down because that was the one thing that you could take from her pre-UFC tenure that you could transfer over to the UFC octagon. If you're on the ground with her for really any minute of any time, you are in danger of getting submitted. She has very, very good hips off of her back, and she's someone who can pivot on her spine. It's really weird. It's like she has wheels on her back that she can always just go around on because... she's constantly in a set position, but she does what I really like about Charles Oliveira. When Charles Oliveira grapples, it's like seeing a black widow eat a bug. He's just all over it all the time, getting it in a bigger web. Gatto likes to move a lot, even though she can get set in set positions defensively, but she's always attacking with something. And against someone like Tracy Cortez, who definitely has the wrestling advantage in this matchup, but will she have the grappling advantage once it does hit the mat? Because I think Tracy Cortez could get some good ground and pound off, really sap some of the cardio from Melissa Gatto if she's able to get on top of her early and really make her pay for it. But Gatto is such a threat off of her back, and especially on top, because that's the thing. We normally see Melissa Gatto in a lot of her fights, fighting off her back and using her jiu-jitsu in that way in a lot of areas. If she is on top of Tracy Cortez for even 5 seconds. And this isn't hyperbole. If she gets top position on Tracy Cortez, the fight's as good as over because Cortez is a really good wrestler in top position, but off her back, you do worry. She's a little bit slow with some of her own escapes, and that's what I worry about. If Gatto can make this fight less about the set positions, kind of like what Casey O'Neill did against Antonina Shevchenko, I think Melissa Gatto could end up looking like a world beater, and we could be talking about her as like the jiu-jitsu ace in the top 15 of this division.
So Gatto broke Victoria Leonardo's arm, finished Sijara Eubanks with a body kick in the 3rd round. Tracy Cortez, again, in the UFC, undefeated, takes on Maria Agapova, beats her by decision. Before that, over with Invicta, I thought Erin Blanchfield beat her. After that, beats Vanessa Mello. Vanessa
And that's
Mello.
the thing, I was going to ask you that. Do you feel like the Blanchfield win is still her best one? Controversial as it may be, I would say Blanchfield's probably the best name on her record.
It is because the Stephanie Egger fight, she wins. Now that's an impressive win. At 135 to beat Egger, I love it. And then in her last fight, she misses weight and takes on Justine Kish.
Just
now,
disappointing.
Justine Kish, your next title challenger if they don't rematch for the belt at flyweight over with Bellator. Kish just beat Alima McFarlane handily, which is wild. But Kish beat Tracy Cortez, and somehow Tracy Cortez was given a decision win, just like Arlovsky beat Collier. Kish dropped Tracy Cortez in the third round of that fight and beat her before that. So, I mean, again, I have a hard time. I really do. I thought, again, round 1, round 2, maybe there's an argument that Cortez won it. So, Derek Cleary scored it that way. Sal D'Amato had it round 2, round 3 for Kish. And Rick Winter gave all 3 to Cortez, which is, it doesn't make any sense. The other thing out of Cortez, Matt, just before I hand it over to you, again, we talk about the kicks. Gatto started to employ them more in her game. Tracy Cortez in the UFC, 2 against Agapova, 10 in her next fight, 6 in her next fight, 7 in her next fight. Tracy Cortez does not kick. She's thrown 25 kicks in 4 UFC and UFC adjacent fights. Once Gatto's fought twice in the UFC and she's thrown 20, and they've landed. So again, the striking, it's tough to say that it favors Gatto because she strikes like Gina Mazzani. Leads with her head and then throws her arms out there. But in a matchup like this where it comes to 2 grapplers with Tracy Cortez having a wrestling advantage and Melissa Gatto being lights out with BJJ, I've set it up a way that I don't normally do it with Fight Night picks.
I'm at the point now where it's, okay, if you grapple with Melissa Gatto, you're probably going to lose the fight. That's just how I look at a lot of her fights in my mind. I know that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but she really is at that level with her jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm not trying to sell you some used car that's real bad on the inside that just looks nice on the outside. Like, Gatto's grappling is at that world-class level, and my problem with Tracy Cortez is that, could she wrestle her way to a win? She could. But she's not a good enough striker to win a fight with just 15 minutes of striking. I think she's proved that in her UFC tenure. She's a steadier striker, I would say, than Gatto, but again, she's going to need her wrestling at some point throughout this fight. And to me, I just don't think you want to mess around with Gatto on the mat whatsoever. If Cortez was a little bit better on her feet, if she could stick with the jab a little bit more, then maybe I would pick her to secure a couple rounds early and just do enough in the third round, be sound defensively to win a decision. But for Gatto being an underdog, I really like her in this matchup, to be honest.
Tracy Cortez, I mean, right now, sitting in and about a big enough favorite to where it kind of surprised me before we did the video. So if you look at it, Cortez open at a minus 225. She's minus 175 right now. Gatto open a plus 190. She's plus 150. Heading on over to, wow, I got ahead of myself, to Tapology. The votes are a surprise to us as they are to you, but I'm going to say over under 75% for the fighter that has 437,000 Instagram followers, Tracy Cortez.
I'll say under. I think it's closer to 50-50.
Slightly, yeah. So 646 total votes, 62% Cortez, 92% by decision, 38% that I've got to, 60% by decision, 14% by submission, 19% by knockout. The math doesn't add up, but trust me, that's what those numbers are on Tapology. Sometimes they don't add up. Again, I normally don't set things up this way with Fight Night picks, but I've got Melissa Gatto. I think she's going to go out there and win by submission.
I like that. Yeah, I like that prediction, honestly. It's just, for Cortez, we've never seen her win an MMA fight with just her striking. At every point, she has to go for a takedown during her fights. Is Melissa Gatto the fighter that you ever want to take down? No, not at all, because she's not just a grappler who has to get it done from top position, or she struggles off her back. She's great in both those positions, and this is one of those fights. Since Tracy Cortez is engaged to Brian Ortega now, Brian Ortega fought Thiago Tavares way back in the day in 2015. He spends 15 minutes of that fight, I know the fight's only 15 minutes, he spends the majority of that fight off of his back throwing up ground and pound at Thiago Tavares. He ends up knocking him out near the end of that fight, but that was one of the first fights I remember watching, and the commentary said, I know Ortega's on his back, but like, he might be winning this fight because he's landing better strikes off his back. He's threatening with submissions. I could kind of see this fight going in a similar pattern to that. The difference is, I think Gatto will be the one who wins.
Both of us going with Brazil's Melissa Gatto as the underdog in this matchup. Let us know if you're going with the favorite here in Tracy Cortez, or if you do have Gatto. 2 big fights up at the top for the titles. You've got Namajunas defending against Esparza. You've got Oliveira defending against Gaethje. Not going to want to miss this. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into